Ali Muhammad Al-Shurafa says, "When we declare that we are Muslims, the first requirement of this declaration is to make the Holy Quran the supreme reference and the arbiter over every saying, every fatwa, and every devotional practice. The Quran is not a book of abstract sermons, nor is it merely texts to be recited on occasions. Rather, it is a book of legislation, guidance, and a scale that judges between people regarding that which they differ." The Almighty said, "Indeed, this Quran guides to that which is most suitable." And He, glorified be He, said, "And we have sent down to you the book as clarification for all things, and as guidance and mercy and good tidings for the Muslims." If the Quran is a clarification for all things regarding guidance and legislation, how is it permissible for a Muslim to seek a ruling in worship in anything else before referring to it? And how can we accept that human narrations and sayings be transformed into a reference that competes with or rises above the words of God? The true methodology requires that whenever we hear or read a matter concerning worship or a legal ruling, we must present it to the Book of God. If we find for it an explicit text or a clear origin in the Quran, we adhere to it in obedience to God. If we do not find an origin for it in the Book of God, we must stop and refrain from attributing it to divine legislation, because God, glorified be He, warned against inventing lies upon Him, saying, "Say, my Lord has only forbidden immoralities, what is apparent of them and what is concealed, and sin, and oppression without right, and that you associate with Allah that for which He has not sent down authority, and that you say about Allah that which you do not know." Speaking about God without knowledge is one of the greatest crimes, because it attributes to God a ruling He did not legislate. One of the issues that generates much debate is the value and timing of Zakat al-Fitr. If we wish to judge by the Quran alone, we must ask, where is the text that defines this obligation by its name, time, and amount? When the Quran spoke about zakat, it presented it within a general framework linked to spending and purification, tazkiyah, and it did not link it to a specific annual date or a particular temporal occasion. The Almighty said, "O you who have believed, spend from the good things which you have earned, and from that which we have brought forth for you from the earth." The command here is clear, spending from the good things you have earned, meaning that the basis of performance is the realization of gain. Whenever gain exists, the obligation to spend exists. He, glorified be He, did not say, "Spend once a year," nor did He say, "Wait for a specific date." Rather, He linked the performance to the attainment of provision. From this, it is understood that whoever achieves recurring profits, whether from trade, stocks, or freelance work, the door for spending is open at all times, because giving is linked to the attainment of the blessing. It was mentioned in the words of the Almighty, "And know that anything you obtain of war booty, then indeed for Allah is 1/5 of it, and for the messenger, and for the near relatives, and the orphans, and the needy, and the traveler." Here, the percentage of the fifth, meaning 20%, was specified from the booty, ghanima, and booty is what is realized from surplus gain. He whose faith is sincere will not find it too much to set aside 20% of his gains in devotion to God, for wealth in its essence belongs to God. The Almighty said, "And give them from the wealth of Allah which He has given you." Man is a trustee, not a true owner. So how can a servant be stingy towards his owner with what he has commanded? Furthermore, God, glorified be He, removed hardship from those who are unable, making spending according to capacity. Let a man of wealth spend from his wealth, and he whose provision is restricted, let him spend from what Allah has given him. Allah does not charge a soul except with what He has given it. There is no injustice or hardship in God's legislation, but rather mercy, justice, and wisdom.
The greatest danger is when humans turn into a source of legislation competing with the Book of God, and when the words of sheikhs and scholars are prioritized over the texts of the Quran. The Almighty said, "Have you not seen those who were given a portion of the Scripture? They are invited to the Book of Allah that it should arbitrate between them. Then a party of them turns away, and they are refusing." Then he clarified the reason of their deviation. That is because they say, "Never will the fire touch us except for a few numbered days," and they were deluded in their religion by what they were inventing. Inventing lies upon God is the path of misguidance, and being deluded by narrations and sayings without returning them to the Book of God is the gateway to deviation. God confirms his absolute sovereignty and complete authority by saying, "Say, O Allah, owner of sovereignty, you give sovereignty to whom you will, and you take sovereignty away from whom you will. You honor whom you will, and you humble whom you will. In your hand is all good. Indeed, you are over all things competent." Whoever possesses this description, no one shares legislation with him. He also warned the believers, saying, "Let not believers take disbelievers as allies instead of the believers, and whoever does that has nothing with Allah, except when you take a precaution against them in prudence. And Allah warns you of himself, and to Allah is the destination." And his saying, "And Allah warns you of himself, and Allah is kind to his servants." The divine warning is explicit, the reference is one, and the destination is to him alone. The most dangerous thing the Ummah can fall into is forsaking the book of its Lord, and the Quran recorded the complaint of the Messenger himself. And the Messenger has said, "O my Lord, indeed my people have taken this Quran as something abandoned." Forsaking the Quran is not only by leaving its reciting, but more dangerously by failing to implement its judgment and failing to make it the supreme reference. A sincere return to God begins here, by referring every saying to his book, by weighing every act of worship by his scale, and by rejecting every ruling that is not based on a clear Quranic text. The Quran is the covenant between God and his servants. It is the scale that does not falter and the light that is never extinguished. Whoever seeks salvation should adhere to God's law and his path and cease following the sayings of humans if they contradict the Book of God. Let them know that power, knowledge, and sovereignty all belong to God, and that those who claim religious authority possess for themselves neither benefit nor harm. The Almighty said, "The command is only for Allah. He has commanded that you worship not except him." That is the correct religion, but most of the people do not know. Thus, it is the duty of everyone who claims Islam to place the Quran before them, to let it judge their worship, their dealings, and their perceptions. Only then will the nation be upright, the purity of the religion return, and God's promise of guidance will be fulfilled for those who hold fast to his book. Then whoever follows my guidance will neither go astray nor suffer.